If you're a Power Rangers geek like I am, and certainly if you grew up with the original show in the 90s, then Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return #1 is a pretty big deal. This story takes place on an alternate timeline where 22 years ago, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers defeated Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed, and then moved into their normal lives as adults. Well, relatively normal. But it looks like they're going to be called back into action pretty soon. The big selling point for this book, at least for Power Rangers fans, is that it's co-authored by Amy Jo Johnson, the actress turned screenwriter and director who played Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, on the original TV show back in the 90s. I saw this book get a lot of pre-release praise from people online, and I'm happy to say that, at least in this instance, you should believe the hype. This book is pretty good. There's a real sense here that the kids are grown up now. And I think that Power Ranger fans have wanted something with a more mature, I don't want to say adult vibe, but something a little more sophisticated for a while now. Now, it's important for me to say here that when I say mature, I don't mean dark, or graphic, or overly angsty. This is about as mature as I think you want to get with the Power Rangers concept. If you push it any further, I think you risk going into the realm of self-parody. I'm not really of the mindset that we need a dark take on Power Rangers. I think that Power Rangers is best as the colorful, flamboyant, action-packed kids show that it was created to be. We don't need a dark, moody take on the Power Rangers, despite how many people might think they want to see it. I was pleasantly surprised at how character-driven everything was. The storytelling does feel more grown up, but it also feels very natural, given what these characters have been through together. It feels like there's a lot of love and attention to detail being put into this book. Our artist Nico Leone and our colorist Francesco Segala really kill it on the art, to the point that it made me borderline emotional at times, seeing older versions of all these characters, including one who's no longer with us. There's also a sequence where they flash back to the juice bar during the golden days, I guess, and it really looks and feels like a classic Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode. So the art is a big selling point for me on this book. For me personally, it's hard to look at this book and not think of Once and Always, the 30th anniversary special that was done for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers early last year. For the record, I loved Once and Always. I thought it was great. But it feels to me like The Return is the story that Once and Always could have been if it had a longer runtime and all of the surviving actors had returned. Incidentally, I still can't finish Cosmic Fury, the 30th season, which as it turned out was the last season of the original incarnation of the show. I just don't want it to be over, you know? I mean, I think I'd be okay if David Yost wasn't there, but I don't know. Whoever made the decision at Hasbro to end the original show needs to come to my office pronto. In any event, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return is now the most important Power Rangers comic that Boom Studios is publishing. I'm anxiously awaiting the next issue. In the second issue of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return, the past returns. That's kind of the nature of the story. By the way, as long as we're on the subject of Power Rangers, I have some things to get off my chest about Austin St. John, but we're going to save that until after we talk about the comic book. So if Hitler-related controversies interest you, stay tuned, I guess. You know, naturally, this book came out with a lot of buzz around it because Amy Jo Johnson, the actress who played the Pink Ranger on the original Power Rangers TV show, was co-authoring it. But what I really came away from this second issue thinking about was the art by Nico Leone and the colors by Dono Sanchez Almara. It's beautiful stuff, really reminiscent of the old TV show, while at the same time keeping with the more mature tone that this story has. I only wish I could show you more of it. They haven't released any preview pages for this issue. Gonyi Montez also gives us an even better cover this time around than he did for the first issue. He's just outstanding. This issue kicks off with a big, epic flashback battle sequence that, again, is just gorgeously drawn and colored. Some of the best art that Boom Studios has produced for Power Rangers since they've had the license. The only thing is, if you're a stickler for Power Rangers timeline and chronology stuff, like I sometimes am, you're going to have to put that on the shelf for a little bit. In this sequence, we've got Zed married to Rita, but the Dinozords are there, and the Green Ranger is there, and it doesn't match up with what we know from the show. I've gotten really mad at previous Power Ranger comic books when that kind of stuff happens, but I'm inclined to be a little bit more lenient with the return, not only because it is an alternate universe story, but because the writing is just of such a better quality than we've seen in the past. So, no harm, no foul, I guess. I want to spoil as little as possible as it relates to this battle sequence and this issue, but there's a moment here where we see Zed and Rita's bedroom, and we see that they sleep in separate beds, Lucy and Ricky style, and that may be the most perfect little detail I've ever seen in a Power Rangers comic. It's awesome. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return is not only the best Power Rangers comic book that Boom Studios is putting out presently, it's the best Power Rangers comic book they've done in many years. If you're a Power Rangers fan, it's definitely worth a purchase. Alright, let's talk about Austin St. John. Austin St. John, the actor who played Jason the Red Ranger on the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers show, accidentally made the news the other day when he showed up on a podcast and mentioned that he was planning to produce a line of t-shirts with quotes from famous warriors throughout history, one of those warriors being Hitler. Oh boy. In St. John's own words, quote, "Hitler was a demon on steroids, but he had some good one-liners," end quote. That's kind of like saying Jeffrey Dahmer knew some good recipes. I mean, some people might think that's true, but I wouldn't put him on a t-shirt. The incident had already kind of stirred up a ruckus online amongst Power Ranger fans, but that became even more the case when Amy Jo Johnson, who again played the Pink Ranger on the old show and is our author for this comic book, kind of threw some shade St. John's way on social media. Entertainment Weekly even picked up the story, so this is a thing now. I met Austin St. John at a convention a few years ago. He was very nice, very friendly, very personable to me. I can't really say anything bad about the way he conducted himself in that regard, but shame on him. Shame on him for putting himself in this situation and for potentially glorifying Hitler's words and for embarrassing himself, his Power Rangers co-stars, and Power Rangers fans in general who've supported him for many years. This whole situation is so stupid anyway. I mean, even amongst the alt-right, Hitler is still pretty much known as the personification of evil. If you're writing down a plan about quotes to put on a t-shirt, you'd think somebody would have looked at that and said, maybe not this one? Sometimes your heroes let you down. I guess that's the kind of thing you learn as an adult sometimes. But what this situation has made me more grateful for are the heroes of mine who have not let me down. So thanks, guys. Thanks for staying heroes after all these years. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return number 3 is the penultimate issue of the book? Really? I mean, I know I generally say it's better to go too short than too long, but I want more! In this issue, we find out who our true villain is, and I can't really tell you who she is, but based on how she's drawn here,
you can probably figure out how she connects to Rita Repulsa. And if I may say, she beats the hell out of Thrax. This issue does something with Bulk and Skull that I really, really love. It's a testament to the affection that this book has for the original series. I think the one thing about this book that I don't like is the fact that they put the Red Ranger in a brown cape for some reason. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like when they put Batman in the duster jacket in Batman vs. Superman. It's redundant, it's silly, it doesn't make sense. Just don't do it. Let's talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return number 4. And while we're at it, let's talk about what appears to be the end of an era at Boom Studios. This July, Boom's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers ongoing series will come to an end after 8 years, leading many to believe that the Power Rangers license is leaving Boom Studios altogether. This might not be a popular thing to say, but as far as the current ongoing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series coming to an end at Boom, I'm okay with that. I mean, based on what we've gotten these past couple of years from them, I think the series has kind of run its course, at least under its current creative direction. That being said, though, in terms of the full body of work, the folks at Boom Studios who've been involved with the Power Rangers license can look back and be proud of the fact that they gave us the best Power Rangers comics of all time, and it's not a close race. And if the Power Rangers license is indeed leaving Boom Studios, then this Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Return story is, I think, the rightful way to close the book on the Boom Studios era for the franchise. I mean, it all kind of makes sense and fits. You know, Amy Jo Johnson, the actress who played the original Pink Ranger on the show, she's one of our writers here. Goni Montez, who's done so many of his trademark helmet covers for the license over the years, he's here. And while the book does hit a couple of bumps in the road with this final issue, more on that in a moment, this is still one of the better Power Rangers comic books that Boom Studios has ever produced. Like, it's top tier. This book's variant cover game has been strong from the get-go and ends strong here. We have Goni Montez on the main cover, but we also have David Nakayama contributing a B cover, and then we also have Miguel Mercado with a strong cover as well. Just beautiful, beautiful art. The interior art by Nico Leon and colorist Diego Sanchez Almara has also been beautiful from the start. It's got a more mature vibe to it, but it can also evoke the original series to the point that it gets me borderline emotional at times to look at it. Cheesy as that sounds. There's also a really fun moment in this issue that's provided to us by our letterer Ed Dukeshire. When the putties come into the scene, he gives us some putty speak overhead. The blah, 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 blah. There's a development in the story here with the Green Ranger that I would not have gone with. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, but you know what? That's a way to go, and that's their choice as storytellers, so I respect it, even though I don't necessarily agree with it. They tease a sequel at the end, and you know what? I wouldn't put money on that happening, especially if the franchise is leaving Boom Studios, but you know what? If there's a way to make it happen, I say we definitely make it happen, because this book was a triumph. Not a flawless triumph, but a triumph nonetheless.